At the gate of this person's estate lay a beggar named Lazarus, who was covered with sores. Lazarus longed to eat the scraps that fell from the rich person's table, and even the dogs came and licked Lazarus's sores. One day, poor Lazarus died and was carried by the angels to the arms of Sarah and Abraham. The rich person likewise died and was buried. In Hades, in torment, the rich person looked up. In Hades, in torment, the rich person looked up and saw Sarah and Abraham in the distance, and Lazarus resting in their company. Sarah and Abraham, the rich person cried, have pity on me. Send Lazarus to dip the tip of his finger in water and cool off my tongue, for I am tortured by these flames. But they said, my child, remember that you were well off in your lifetime while Lazarus was in misery. But now Lazarus has found consolation here, and you have found torment. But that's not all. Between you and us there is a fixed chasm, so that those who might wish to come to you from here can't do so, nor can anyone cross from your side to us. The rich person said, I beg you then to send Lazarus to my own house where I have 5 siblings. Let Lazarus be a warning to them, so that they may not end in this place of torment. But Sarah and Abraham replied, they have Moses and the prophets. Let your siblings hear them. Please, I beg you, the rich person said, if someone would only go to them from the dead, then they would repent. If they don't listen to Moses and the prophets, Sarah and Abraham replied, they won't be convinced, even if someone should rise from the dead.
Thanks for that good reading. That was awesome. So I'm just going to start us out this morning with maybe a 30-second pause to consider you sit here, I stand here, we are here sharing a world with 8 billion human souls. In real time right now, each one of these 8 billion is living one unique human experience filled with challenges and joys, suffering, moments of loneliness, struggle, pain, moments of laughter and ecstasy, moments and sometimes lifetimes of unspeakable abuse or crippling poverty. In this very moment, imagine the reality. Someone sitting in the rubble of Gaza, having lost their family. Someone riding the subway in New York to get to a job. Homeless person standing on the corner somewhere right now. Other people sitting in church. So let's take 30 seconds and just realize we share one human experience with all these people in this very moment. Stating the obvious, you and I, of course, are one of these 8 billion souls. Each one of us, unique, breathing souls, bears a name, precious to God. We are somebody. And that's why this story told by Jesus, uniquely recorded in Luke's gospel, gives a name to one of its 2 main characters. Lazarus, he had a name, and it means God has helped. But in the story, God didn't seem to have helped Lazarus. Lazarus sat at the rich man's gate for years and was never noticed, let alone helped. Could it be, I asked, that the rich man's true calling was to be God for that one needy person? Could it be that God's help could only come through the actions of compassion for that one person for whom only the dogs paid attention to? Was the rich man that one divinely appointed individual through whom God was trying to make God's self, call it divine love, divine care, divine compassion, be known? Is this story perhaps tragic, I ask, because this rich man failed to hear God's plea to help poor Lazarus as the rich man walked past this impoverished soul day after day? To these rhetorical questions, I would have to answer, in my opinion, yes. That is, in fact, the tragedy of the story we hear today. Failing to be the manifestation of God's love in the particular situation that literally presented itself day after day after day at that rich man's gate. It seems to me that the roots of suffering and sin manifest in poverty and war and cruelty come down to 4 words: ignorance, greed, fear, and indifference. Any one of those 4 words might be helpful, maybe, to look at this parable of the rich man and Lazarus. Was the rich man ignorant? Doesn't seem like he couldn't have not noticed Lazarus, but we could say that he was ignorant in other ways. He was ignorant to God's wokeness, a word now used to deride the so-called left, but which I choose to embrace. The parable suggests that the rich man was not woke to compassion, was not woke to feel another's pain, what we call empathy, was not woke to the only currency that God deals in, which is the currency of care for the suffering of others. Was the rich man greedy? If the definition of greed is to have a singular focus on personal monetary gain for serving only oneself while others suffer in their poverty, then yes, perhaps the rich man was greedy. He had plenty to share, and sharing, we can assume, wouldn't have made a difference in his own personal lifestyle or security, but he didn't share, so yes, perhaps he was greedy. Was the rich man fearful? Again, maybe. Was he afraid that poor, vulnerable flea bag of a man could just as easily be him? Perhaps. Was he afraid that Lazarus, whose name he likely never even bothered to know, might cause him to question assumptions about his own self-made importance? Perhaps. Was his theological notions of God's blessing manifest through his corresponding earthly wealth be called into question? Perhaps. Aren't we all afraid when our foundational theologies or foundational economic theories are challenged? Was he afraid of uncomfortable feelings or the fear of feeling guilt or shame because he is well off while the brother at the gate is not? Perhaps. Finally, was he just indifferent? In short, did he just not give a hoot? Did he not bother to think about it? It just wasn't on his radar. Did he willfully choose not to care? This may be the worst of moral failures because, if nothing else, this attitude negates the very essence of what we are called to do in this life, to love and passionately care for others with the same care we extend to ourselves. The truth is, this little story, like all good parables, is meant, I think, to be a mirror or perhaps a roadmap for a better way. We are the rich man or woman. We are all prone to sins rooted in ignorance, greed, fear, and indifference. We are part of systems that amplify those things within our souls. But the good news is every day, like the rich man, we are confronted with a new opportunity to not be that guy. Every day we are tempted to either look away or explain away the needs that confront us, yet every day we are given brand new opportunities to renew ourselves. In the case of poverty in our world, we can courageously allow ourselves to look straight in the eyes of suffering and feel sorrow, compassion, and yes, guilt, knowing that while we cannot make it magically go away, we can do something. And I guess that's all God would ask of us. Just do something. I've been thinking about this story for a few weeks, knowing that this was the parable or story I wanted to preach on. And because of that, this parable was perhaps more circulating in my brain when last week was running to Rosar's to pick up some eggs for breakfast. It was about Rosar's is the grocery store in Spokane, about 6:30 in the morning. And I would guess that half the folks waiting in the checkout were more or less in the Lazarus camp of our homeless, or almost homeless sector in Spokane. And as I was getting close to return to my car, a man approaches for money for a bus ticket. It's not fair for me to put that in quotes, but that's what I was thinking. Suddenly, I'm feeling pain and frustration and anger and guilt. And all the dysfunctions and disparities of Spokane come flooding into my soul. Hey man, I just need some money for a bus ticket. No, dude, not today, I shamefully reply. I feel the embarrassment and the shame personally, and I assume he does too. The whole situation stinks for both of us. In this one moment, my frustration was not so much with the man who asked, but the situation that put him and me there. In this one moment, like the rich man and Lazarus, I feel this great chasm whereby I can jump into my car, run up to the store, grab and pay for a dozen eggs, and get back in my car and go home to my private, warm, and safe home. While for whatever reasons this person is compelled to walk up to complete strangers, ask for money, and repeatedly face rejection and pity. I'm sorry, dude, not today. He feels degraded, and so do I. This is not the world we are meant to live in. And it raises the question, why? An essential question to ask, right? Why does this extreme gulf exist between me and this man? We breathe the same air. We have the same basic needs. We are both called into this world by the same God. Why this chasm between us? But before I can authentically ask that question, I must first acknowledge this one fact. I am the rich man. And in all likelihood, so are all of us. And even when we do give that dollar to the panhandler, the honest part of me asks, what good did it do? I can say, perhaps cynically, for one brief moment, it relieved my guilt, but that's about it. For $1, a small transaction took place. For $1, my guilt is softened, but it does not address the situation. In my defense, I will say that unlike the rich man, I am making an assumption here. I do not feel, I feel guilt, I feel anger, I feel shame, I feel frustration. As followers of Jesus, I think that's important. Being uncomfortable is a part of living by the Spirit. It's important to never stop feeling unsettled, a little upset by the brokenness of our world. Such feelings keep us open, uncomfortable for sure, but open. Not hardened hearts, but broken hearts. And each time poverty confronts us, if we're really listening to our souls, we hear the voice of God saying, don't settle for guilt, but keep caring. Do what you can, and then do a little more. The poverty in this world is not okay. And though you cannot solve it alone, you are a part of that solution. The rich man didn't act because he didn't allow himself to hear the Spirit, I suggest, to feel the pain, to hear the call. In some ways, the rich man essentially did what I did in the parking lot of Rosar's. Sorry, dude, not today. This story this morning tells us that the rich man, after his life on earth is over, calls out from the grave and says, send someone back to warn those now living of the consequences of not caring. And the reply comes, if they didn't listen to the prophets who warned them, they're not going to believe anyone else, not even someone coming back from the grave. It amazes me how loud the Bible speaks against injustice and the poverty it gives birth to, and yet so many of us in the church forget this central concern of the gospel. I didn't count them, but I was told there are 31,000 verses in the Bible, and 2,300 speak of money and wealth. And okay, that's roughly 8% of the Bible, but still that seems significant to me. And it's not ambiguous. We remember Amos saying, I despise your feasts, let justice flow like waters and righteousness like an ever-flowing stream. We remember Isaiah who says, is this not the feast I choose? To loose the bonds of injustice, to undo the thongs of the yoke, to let the oppressed go free, to break every yoke. Is it not to share your bread with the hungry and bring the homeless poor into your house, and not to hide yourself from your own kin? Then your light shall break forth like the dawn, and your healing shall spring up quickly. Or Micah, of course, 6:8, what is required of you but to seek justice, love kindness, and walk with humility? If I have anything to share, it would be to remind us that we are all fleeting and momentary wisps of precious, mysteriously significant, cosmic nothingness, yet somethingness. Here today and gone tomorrow. Very zen, isn't it? And so, but I think it's true. And so with this perspective in mind, Jesus, whom we read in the Gospels, sharpens our focus on what is vital and important in this fleeting moment. Not just in this story this morning, but in many others of Jesus' teachings. The story of the self-sufficient man who built the bigger barns to store up more wealth, only to die the next day. Or the multiple times Jesus tells of a great feast where all are invited, especially the disenfranchised. Or the sharing of a few loaves and fishes that feed thousands, and it's told multiple times in all four Gospels. Literally 6 times this story is told in the 4 Gospels. The poor widow who offers a few pennies shared out of her poverty. Or the parable of the sheep and goats, where we are reminded that Jesus is literally presenting himself to us in the faces of poverty and desperate need we see in front of us. Some of you may have read, this came out I think about a year ago or two, the owner and founder of the Patagonia clothing company, and Yvon Chouinard, I believe, I'm probably butchering his last name, but he's 83 years old, and his family had transferred their ownership of the company stock to an irrevocable trust to ensure that all profits, estimated at $100 million a year, will be used to combat climate change and protect undeveloped land around the globe. And he was quoted as saying something like, "What good is this company if there is not a habitable planet for it to exist?" None of us, to my knowledge, are billionaires. And we may think we have little, if any, ability to change the world. But you know, that's not the gospel. You know that's not true. All of us are called. It's not about quantity, how much, and I know this is a cliche, but it is about quality. The quality of our souls. Are we paying attention? Are we open to having our hearts broken and changed? Are we courageous to do what we can, when we can, as much as we can, and do it with great joy because we know in serving others we are living into the calling that gives our lives value and meaning? There's no other way to say it. The parable puts me on edge, which is what parables often are designed to do. It makes me a bit uncomfortable. I know I am forgiven and I'm saved, and when all is said and done, we will all be held to account to the best degree possible. I would like to know that I did the best I could. The rich man, which I know will not be enough, and there is the grace of God. The rich man in the afterlife seems as if he is living in a moment of torment. He is tormented because perhaps he missed out on what life was really about. For me, the torment must have felt like something like regret. Like, how did I not notice? How did I miss what was most important? What opportunities to infuse love and joy and justice in the world did I willfully pass by? These are the kind of regrets that I want to have as few of as possible. But I suspect I will have them. I've missed a lot of opportunities to be compassionate and loving, and yet I will still be, I believe, infinitely loved by an almighty, loving Creator and a loving Savior. And so will we all. That's the assurance and good news of the gospel. We cannot earn our way, and yet the gospel is called to wake us up. Like that, this parable is about waking up. The rich man did not wake up, but we can. This sermon began with a 30-second silent reflection focusing on our awareness that we are essentially all interconnected. Rich and poor alike, we all are having our own unique struggles and joys. Our stories are private, and yet we are a part of a great, interconnected, mysterious collective. The gulf we create by our disparities of wealth is not a gulf intended by God, and it is not one we can settle for. For we are one. The rich man forgot this truth, and we are called to always remember it. So as we began our service, or the sermon reflection this morning, let us take 30 seconds to be mindful of this truth. Right now, in real time, we are breathing, our hearts are beating, our lungs are breathing, along with 8 billion other people in real time right now, having real struggles, real joys. And let's feel ourselves as one for 30 seconds. Amen.